Hello and Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining me for my one-off Christmas Day painting special. So this is something I thought would be really fun to do for those that have already done my paint nights. You know what you're doing. For those that haven't done them before but have been curious, this is just a little taste into what it is. Obviously, I'm usually live when I do these events, and when I'm live, I can go slower or I can zoom in on things when people ask me to in the chat. So if for some reason you want to see a little bit up close or anything, I will post also pictures of the final product in the comments below. Now, there's a few things I usually do before I do a paint night. Usually I paint it first so I can work out what works, what doesn't, and try and figure out the logistics of how to teach it. I'm not doing that this time. I'm just going for it, mainly because I've already done this painting before. It was a few years ago now in Canada, and I did it at a primary school, for my aunt and a bunch of her colleagues, and it was really fun. So I'm just gonna have a go at it and just see how we get on. Just bear with me. So the difference with this one will be is that I'm going to be going at a quicker pace, but you have the ability to hit pause and rewind it and, go back and take your time. So that's the reason why this will be a bit nicer in a way, because I'll be able to kind of just buzz along through it. So what I'm doing instead this time is I'm actually painting the outside of my sketchbook because I ran out of canvas, and you don't need a canvas to do it. I'm also using my iPad for the picture of the Grinch. No, I'm going to leave it there. You know what an iPad looks like. Anyway, it's over there, and I'm just going to start going for it. So I'm going to start with my red. I've got red, black, green, and white in here right now. And I'm just going to use my squared off brush. I've got a fair amount of paint on it. Didn't really bother getting my paintbrush wet at this point, because I'm just doing a very basic outline to start. So with the arm, it kind of goes into the shape of a stocking almost, but we're starting near the top of the arm, and that comes near the very top of the page. It kind of comes straight down, and then curves, comes up slightly, and that's pretty much it. So I'm going to make sure I've given him enough of a sleeve, just like that. So that's the basic shape you're going for the very beginning. What I'm now going to advise you to do is just paint in that whole bit red. All right, so you're just going to go for it. Now, when I'm teaching any kind of painting, I always do say, make sure that you do your paint strokes going kind of in the same direction. So if they start to curve, just get them all to start to curve in the same direction. Because when your paint dries, it does become really obvious if you've kind of done the paint strokes in every which direction. And the other thing that's nice about this painting is you don't have to worry about if you don't stay in the lines, if it gets a bit messy, because at the very end we add in the black background. So you can make it look nice and crisp. Now, as you're adding in the details, pardon me, to your sleeve, you might want to include some things like some little bumps along, just so that it looks like the material isn't laying flat, because it wouldn't be laying completely flat on him. Just like that. Lovely. And while it's nice and tacky and wet, the paint, this would be a good point to just get the tiniest amount of black on your brush. You don't need much at all. And this is where you can start to add in your shading. So I'm going to add in some lines like this. And it is a bit darker near the edges. Just think about where there would be lines coming, like where the creases would be. So there'd be probably some creases here right in the middle, along the edges here. and working your way up. So I've just added in a bunch of creases. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to turn my paintbrush so that it's flat, and then I can blend these dark lines in. It is going to be darker along the edges as well. So I'm going to drag that darkness into those edges down here. By adding in this black, it starts to give it a bit more dimension, which is a word that if you do my paint nights, you're very used to hearing. So right now it doesn't look like much, but it will start to come together. I'm just blending it all in, having a bit of fun with it. Got really dark up near the top, so I might add in a bit more red in a bit, but I'll probably wait till it's a bit more dry to add in some more details. I always go back in at a later time to really add in more details. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it like this for now, but I'm definitely not done with it. I just want it to dry a little bit more so I can add in some more details. So I am now going to clean my brush. This next bit might seem a bit silly. You don't really need to add in the white until the very, very, very end. So this is usually when I would discover what's the easiest route to go next if I've already painted it beforehand. I don't really remember how I did it last time, but I think I'm going to hold off on adding in the white at this point. I'm going to make that the very last thing I do after I've done the black background. So I'm just going to have it looking like the Grinch's arm is coming out now. So it's going to look a bit funny initially, but once we get to the finishing touches, we will hopefully see what I'm going for. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to my green just to make it a bit bolder or a bit brighter. Yeah, I like that a bit more. Right, so I'm going to use the same brush again. Just going to add a little bit of water, tap, tap, tap. I don't know why I've never thought of using ice cream containers before as a palette. It's like keeps me from getting really messy. So my wrist is going to come up, and you'll notice that I'm not starting right at the edges. To be honest, doesn't really matter if you do, because you're going to be putting all that white around it at the very end. So I'm going to come up a little bit and then start curving it. And then it's going to come down to a bit of a point. And then I'm going to come straight down. He's got very long fingers, doesn't he? I'm at a little bit of an angle. Down again. And then nice and thin like that. Alright, now I'm going to come up here as well. And it does kind of come up at a bit of an angle. Bit of a curve. If you do take part in this and you feel confident, or comfortable, sorry, I should say, in sharing your work, please do send it to me. You can send it to me privately. I'd love to see what you do. You don't have to worry. I will not share it without your permission. Yeah. So just try and follow the lines down. Again, they don't have to look exactly like mine. Mine definitely won't look exactly like the picture. It's one of the things I really like about these paint nights that I do, is that everyone ends up with something different, and I love that about it. Okay. Might even make that a little bit longer. Again, you don't have to worry about if they're not nice crisp lines, because you are going to be going over that. So this kind of curves a little bit. Just make sure that as you get further down, that you're making it thinner. Looks really funny right now. And then this one was almost like the point. I'm only painting across like this because I want to get the line right. This is my very long finger that's going to come right to the end. Bit of a wiggly line as well. And then we have a second one. Watch, this is when I don't put enough fingers in it. Just like long little wiry fingers that get thinner as they go out. There, I've kind of done all my fingers now. And it looks really silly right now, but now I'm going to go in and I'm going to paint the whole thing green. If you're impatient like me, and you want to move on to the next stage, but you can't quite yet because your canvas is still really wet, you can always get out a hairdryer. I recommend putting it on the cool setting though. So hopefully everyone here got to see some family over the holidays, even with the way everything is right now. It's a weird year. For me, I'm used to kind of Skyping my family and stuff, living in the UK and everything, so I don't find, to be honest, I'm not finding it too weird. So I've made these fingers here very chunky. So I'm either going to make the other ones a bit chunkier, or I'm just going to make them a bit longer. I think I'm going to make them a tiny bit longer. I can also make them a bit thinner near the end when I go and put the black in, which is probably what I'll do. That's one thing that I do remember really liking about this painting, is that you were able to fix a lot of the little mistakes that you made at the very end, which was very satisfying. Okay, So now that I've colored that all in, I want to start adding in just a little bit more shading and highlighting. So my green is still quite a bit darker than I would have liked. So I'm gonna now go in with a little bit of white, and I'm going to start putting places where you would see more highlights. So the top of the hands, for sure, and the wrists are going to be a little bit lighter. I might even bring in a bit more yellow, because that'd be quite nice. Oh, that red's still wet from yesterday. Alright. So I'm going to go up along here, and I'm going to go, it looks like it goes all nice and highlighted actually, pretty much over the whole hand except for this little bit of the wrist. So we'll blend that in here. And it looks like it goes in nice and light on the top of this finger. Jasper and Rich just got back from posting a letter to Santa. Nice and late, but better late than never. Didn't think he'd be interested in doing it, to be honest, this year, but our friend gave us a little template. Cheers, Meg. So we thought we would go and post that. Did you post your letter to Santa?
We did.
Awesome. This one has a really good highlight coming right down the top of the finger like that. You got some smoothie. Do you want to come say Happy Christmas? Come here. Look at the camera. Come here. Come here. Look. Look. Come here. We went and got smoothie, and what do you say?
Thank you, Mommy.
No, you say Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Come on, Josh, let's get some smoothie, shall we? Delish. Yep.
Right, so it looks like there's a nice little highlight just on the edge here of the fingers. There we go. Don't worry too much about the details down here in the wrist, because again, you're going to be covering that. So I do want it to look like this finger is on top, so we need to make that nice and obvious. So this bit is all about just blending things in now. Blend, blend, blend. I want to keep that darker bit though, so I am going to add in just the tiniest amount of black. So I can just get it a little bit darker on the underneath. But but you don't need very much at all. I've just mixed in the tiniest amount of black. And I'm just going to use that to darken up where there would be some shadow. So right here along the edges and just underneath that wrist. Like that. And then I'm going to also do it along the edges. Like that. And that will make it far more bold. Again, don't worry if you're going over the lines that you've laid out for yourself, because you are going to be fixing that at the very end. I'm just doing that all on the underneath of each finger. And I'm also going to do it just along the edge here, so it looks like the fingers that are below are in shadow a little bit. And also just so you can clearly see that that is the edge of the hand. And this little bit here is also in shadow. And it kind of comes to a point here a little bit. Just have a little play around with it. When in doubt, put your hand in a similar position and shine the light where the light's above it, and then that will give you an idea as to what it should look like. So I'm just very lightly going over it now just to blend it a little bit more. But I don't want to blend it too much because I do want it to really stand out.
Daddy, a unicorn.
Did he just call you a unicorn?
Yep.
That's nice. So if you've done my paint nights before, you'll know that I could literally spend hours on the same bits. Can't wait till Jasper's a little bit older and he can do these with me. So now I'm just going to kind of very lightly, you might have noticed I've not put much on my brush in a while, and that's because I've still got quite a bit on there. I'm just lightly going to brush through and just kind of add in wherever you would think that there would be little dips in the skin where it would be a little bit darker. So if you think about your hand near the knuckles, okay, that would be a good place. And then I'm just going to brush it through so it doesn't hold all the focus. Yeah, and now I'm just going to take the teensiest amount of white and add in a few little highlights just on the points that would get the most light. So the very top of this hand, not very much, just enough. I'm just going to put it all near the top of the wrist here. And also going along just the very tops. I'm just doing little dots right now, but I am going to brush them through in a minute. And now, I'm just going to brush through them, still with the same brush, because it already has some green on it. Very lightly though. didn't really work very well, so I'm just redoing it. And now I'm just going to put some normal green on my brush, but then take most of it off just so that I can blend it in nicely.
It's okay, Chase. Chase, boy.
There we go, it's going in the right direction, that's for sure.
Oh, the snow is snow.
So I've just added a little bit more dark. I'm just blending that in nicely now that I've got that light. And the nice thing about this video too is if you feel like you're happy with yours now, you can just skip ahead. Or you can watch me play this for ages. I am going to move on now though. Pretty happy with those. They look pretty cool. Right, so the next bit is going to add in the bauble. Now, I'm not actually going to make mine broken, which is what it is in the picture, because instead I want to write Jasper's name on it. So if you have someone you want to write their name on it, or you could just write your surname, you can do that as well. So that's what I'm going to do. But I do want the red bauble, so I'm going to clean my brush. You might hear him in the background. Rich is trying to keep him quiet in the lounge right now. Right, so I'm just going to grab my cloth, which I did bring. It's around here somewhere. Ah, there it is. And just going to dry it off. And just get a little bit of water, tap, 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 not dripping. And just going to get some red on my brush. And the edge of this finger is touching the red bauble, so I'm going to start small because painting a perfect circle is not easy. It's better to start small and then gradually get bigger. And the other one doesn't need to touch it. I'm actually realizing how much longer this one is compared to that one, so I might make that one longer. So not a perfect circle, but pretty happy with it. Not too bad. So I'm going to start to add a little bit of dark along the edges. So I'm going to do lines like that, and along the bottom. Then I'm going to get some more. I'm going to clean my brush off. And with no paint on my brush, I'm going to just work that in. Again, I'm not going to worry too much about going over the lines because, like I said, at the very end you're going to put black around it and crisp it out anyway. So I want it to be a bit darker on one side as well. So I probably, if I was doing this for the second time, I wouldn't have put quite so much black in that bit. It's quite dark now, this bubble. But that's fine, because I can always leave it to dry, and I can go over it again later. And that's what I will probably do. But it's nice having that nice dark lines around the edges. And I'm going to keep going around in circles to make it look nice. And this is some interesting noise, Jasper, to make it look nice and smooth. And actually, while I'm letting that dry, I'm going to wipe my brush and I'm just going to add a little bit more to those fingers just to make that one, pardon me, the one here a lot longer. Lost my picture. Yeah. So I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to add in a little bit more. So I want it actually touching it and then coming out like that. And I'm also going to bring them together a little bit more so they're actually touching like that. Yeah. Yeah, like that. So I'm going to clean off my brush again. I think I'm going to add in all the white details at the very end because it's going to be very tricky to go around that white string if I leave that. So now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and do my black background. So you can just fast forward if you want. I'm going to paint in the whole background black, so that's going to take some time. So I'm going to swap to a slightly bigger brush. But I want to make sure that I'm using brushes that have a nice sharp edge. Just take care when you're going around. What? Are you excited? Who's that?
It's tiny.
Whose hand is that?
The hand.
It's the hand of the...
Look.
It's the Grinch. Where's your Grinch toy? Where's your Grinch toy? Look behind you. Look behind you. It's the. This isn't going to work out very well. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Maybe you could go and read that story.
Yeah.
Do you want to go read the story? No. Okay. So I'm just going to use my large paintbrush just for the bigger areas, and then I'm going to take my smaller paintbrush and go around the edges.
Penguin. Snowman. Bird. Bird. 1, 2, 3. Presents. Christmas. Wait a minute. wishing Santa.
Yeah. Should we go look at it upstairs?
No.
How about if we just go over here? What's new?
When I'm going around the coat as well, I'm kind of making sure I give it a few little bumps. Not doing a smooth line.
Excuse. Let's go.
Just changing up brushes to get closer, working in smaller areas. need a smaller paintbrush. I think I dropped one on the floor. I did. Alright, this one's much better for the small details. So if you're wanting to get, if you've got a rounded off brush, you can always, if you get it, you know, a little bit wet, not dripping in the paint, and then you twirl it, it'll go to a nice point. And then that's really nice for getting in those fine details. Alright, I'm going to go up here just because I'd like this bit to have some time to dry so I can add in the white cuff. Another thing I would have probably done differently. Just be very careful you don't get your paintbrush too wet so it doesn't drip. So I keep adding water, but again, I'm always making sure that it's not dripping. Because if the black dripped along your Grinch painting, you will have to wait until it dries, and then you will probably have to go all over the hand again in order to fix it. But you can fix it. It's just be better if you didn't have to. If you want to, I've seen other variations of this painting where they've made the Grinch's fur like kind of make it come out more as opposed to being almost like skin, which is the way I'm doing it. So you can make little light flicks of green coming out to make it look like he's furry. You may be noticing I'm using the black to thin out certain areas. I'm going to thin out this one a little bit. I think it's a bit too thick. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, it's looking good. Right, I've left I went around all the small details on purpose so that I could just take a bigger brush to this bit. Okay. Done. Okay, so there's not a crazy amount left to do now. I am going to add in some more red in here, and I'm going to add in some more pops of color and red here in the sleeve to make it look a little bit more realistic. So I am going to clean off my brush. I'm going to stick with this one though. I quite like this one. I'll show it to you again. This guy. So just going to get him a little bit wet. Tap, tap, tap. Make sure it's not dripping. And then I'm going to just get a bit more red on my brush. And I'm just going to go over the bits that would be dry by now, just to make them a bit brighter. I do like having that shading, but I thought it was just a bit too dark. I quite like the shading on it. So I'm just going to take a little bit of white, and I'm just going to do a little, and I'm not going to rub those in. I want it to look like those are the baubles reflection. So a little shine on them. And I think I'm gonna write Jasper's name on this. Possibly. I might come back and do that later. Add in some more reds along here. Kind of go through and make it pop a little bit more. If you're finding that it's not really making a big, oh, that one did. You can always add a little bit if you've got titanium white for your acrylic white paint. It works really good as a base, so you can always go over it, let it dry a little bit, and then go over top of it with your red, and that will make it really, really, really bold. So I'm just kind of going in and highlighting with my red in some areas where there would be folds in the material. That's something I'm still working on. I still find really tricky to
Mommy.
imitate. Yes, honey.
Mommy,
Yes.
are you home?
Pardon? I am home.
Thank you so much.
I love you so much. Aren't you sweet? I'll have that in a bit. Thank you.
Let's go outside.
You want to go outside? He is so excited about Christmas, which is so exciting for me because if you know me, you know that Christmas is my favorite time of year. Pandemic aside, you know, it's still going to be a great one. You know, just do with what you got. No point in dwelling.
Mommy.
Hello.
I love you so much.
I love you so much. I think he knows Santa's coming very soon. He's being very good today. Right, so I've just added in some red there. And I think I'm going to take just the teensiest amount of black and just kind of put in some little creases. Just like that. And then I'm going to go back in with my red and blend it. I am wearing a Christmas hat. You might have to go upstairs, babe. I knew it would be a challenge doing a paint night with a toddler running around. I'm just using my red now to kind of blend that darker bits in. I quite like the dark red. I think that kind of is more Grinchy, so I'm going to bring a little bit more dark along the bottom. And blend it in. Got some white in there, that's fine. More texture to it. Alright, I'm going to switch back to my squared brush. But I've got to clean it because it's black. But it's quite a good one for blending. Well done. Bribe the child upstairs. All right. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I could go in and do things for ages with it, but I think I'm just going to cut my losses with it. I've also realised, although Rich brought him upstairs, the monitor's on. There we go. All right, so I think I'm now going to add in the white details, and we'll just see if it was dry enough and hope for the best. I'm going to rinse off both of my brushes again. These brushes that I've been using, the rounded off one and my squared off one. They probably have actual names. Sometimes I feel when I'm trying to describe art techniques that I feel like I'm Phoebe off of Friends trying to describe different chords. If you've seen that episode, I've been rewatching Friends, so if you've seen that episode, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, got these two. I'm going to start off with this one though, so I'm going to get it a little bit wet, tap, 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 and then just get some white on it. And just turn my brush. This is not looking very white. All right. So I'm going to make the top of the bauble. It's just a little oblong shape. Just like that. And then I'm going to use the very tip of this just to do the bauble string. Coming down from in between the Grinch's fingers like that. I'm also going to put another little bits like that. You know what? I did it and I don't like it, so I'm going to get rid of it. Oh, I like that though. Blending in some white. That looks nice. Against the dark. Yeah, that looks very nice. Brightened it up a lot more. So this is what I do though, is I play around for ages until I find what I like. So I'm going to leave, how did they do it in there? So let's have a look and see. Oh, they did have a large one on this side. Yeah, like that. And then I'll leave it. Make this a little bit thicker. I'm not going to attempt going over that line again. All right, and then the last bit is just adding in the fluff around the wrist. So I am though going to, just looking at the picture, which I haven't in a while, I'm just going to add in a few little bits that I want to mix in with my red to give it the same look or similar look to my guide. I'm just using a little bit of red to go over it. Just think about where you would see curves in the material. Sometimes I will actually put on like a jumper and look at it, because one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given with painting was either drawing or painting, to draw or paint what you see and not what you know. I think it was my friend Luke that told me that. And that's a really big thing that a lot of us do is we know how to draw. Oh, we know how to draw a tree. So we all get that like broccoli looking tree when kids are really young. And it's because that's what they've been taught from a very young age is, oh, that's exactly what a tree looks like. But it isn't. But if you showed that image to any child, they'd say, oh, it's a tree. But getting them to start actually drawing what they see, looking at it differently. And that is a really hard thing to do, and I'm still working on that. Big time. Okay, I am done now, I promise. All right, so I am going to move these brushes out of the way and get this one out, and I'm just going to start with a dry brush, lots of white at the end, and I'm just going to dab it. Just going to dab it, dab it, dab it, dab it, dab it, until I'm happy with it. And if you're finding that your paint is mixing together, don't worry about it. Just let it dry and go over it again. Which is probably what I will do anyway, just so I can get a really crisp white. Because it's mixed a little bit with my red, but not too bad. So I can see some of my red coming into it, which I'm not surprised because I just worked on the red bit a little bit. But not too bad. So I am going to wait for it to dry and then I'm going to go over that bit again. But that's it, guys. That is the Grinch. So you might see a final product where I've written Jasper's name on it. I really want to take my time with that. And this video is already an hour long. So I hope you all have a very magical Christmas. And I'll put some pictures in the comments as well of this up close. And yeah, please feel free to share and have a great day. Lots of love.